model and open source. How much are you shaken up by the arrival of DeepSeek?
I think open source has an important place. We actually just last night hosted our first community session to kind of decide the parameters of our open source model and how we want to shape it. We're going to do a very powerful open source model. I think this is important. We're going to do something near the frontier, I think better than any current open source model out there. This will not be all, there will be people who use this in ways that some people in this room, maybe you or I, don't like. But there is going to be an important place for open source models as part of the constellation here. And I think we were late to act on that, but we're going to do it really well now.
Tell us about the growth, actually. You gave me a shocking number backstage there.
I have never seen growth in any company, one that I've been involved with or not, like this, like the growth of ChatGPT. It's really fun. I feel deeply honored, but it is crazy to live through, and our teams are exhausted and stressed, and we're trying to keep things up.
How many users do you have now?
I think the last time we said was 500 million weekly actives, and it is growing very rapidly.
You told me that it's doubled in just a few weeks, in terms of compute or in terms
of... I said that privately, but I guess...
Oh. I misremembered, Sam. I'm sorry. We can edit that out of the thing if you really want to, and no one here would tweet it.
It's growing very fast. One of our researchers tweeted, kind of like yesterday or this morning, that the upload happens bit by bit.
Huh.
It's not, it's not that you plug your brain in one day, but you will talk to ChatGPT over the course of your life. Someday, maybe if you want, it'll be listening to you throughout the day and sort of observing what you're doing, and it'll get to know you, and it'll become this extension of yourself, this companion, this thing that just tries to help you be the best, do the best you can. People have very different views of what the big AI risks are going to be. And I myself have evolved on thinking about where we're going to see those. But I continue to believe there will come very powerful models that people can misuse in big ways. People talk a lot about the potential for new kinds of bioterror, models that can present a real cybersecurity challenge, models that are capable of self-improvement in a way that leads to some sort of loss of control. So I think there are big risks there. And then there's a lot of other stuff, which honestly is kind of what I think many people mean, where people talk about disinformation or models saying things that they don't like or things like that.
Sticking with the first of those, do you check for that internally before release?
Of course, yeah. So we have this preparedness framework that outlines how we do that.
So let's talk about agentic systems and the relation between that and AGI. I think there's confusion out there. I'm confused. So artificial general intelligence, it feels like ChatGPT is already a general intelligence. I can ask it about anything and it comes back with an intelligent answer. Why isn't that AGI?
It doesn't. First of all, you can't ask it anything. That's very nice of you to say, but there's a lot of things that it's still embarrassingly bad at. But even if we fix those, which hopefully we will, it doesn't continuously learn and improve. It can't go get better at something that it's currently weak at. It can't go discover new science and update its understanding and do that. And it also kind of can't, even if we lower the bar, it can't just sort of do any knowledge work you could do in front of a computer. I actually, even without the sort of ability to get better at something it doesn't know yet, I might accept that as a definition of AGI. But the current systems, you can't say hey, go do this task for my job, and it goes off and clicks around the internet and calls someone and looks at your files and does it. And without that, it feels definitely short of it.
I mean, do you guys have internally a clear definition of what AGI is? And when do you think that we may be there?
It's one of these, it's like the joke, if you got 10 OpenAI researchers in a room and asked to define AGI, you'd get 14 definitions. And
That's worrying though, isn't it? Because
No, well-
that has been the mission initially. We're going to be the first to get to AGI, we'll do so safely, but we don't have a clear definition of what it is.
I was going to finish the answer.
Sorry.
What I think matters, though, and what people want to know is not where is this one, magic moment of we finished, but given that what looks like is going to happen is that the models are just going to get smarter and more capable and smarter and more capable and smarter and more capable on this long exponential. Different people will call it AGI at different points, but we all agree it's going to go way, way past that. To whatever you want to call these systems that get much more capable than we are. The thing that matters is how do we talk about a system that is safe through all of these steps and beyond, as the system gets more capable than we are, as the system can do things that we don't totally understand. And I think more important than when is AGI coming and what's the definition of it, it's recognizing that we are in this unbelievable exponential curve.
Yeah.
And you can, say, this is what I think AGI is. You can say, you think this is what you think AGI is. Someone else can say superintelligence is out here. But we're going to have to contend and get wonderful benefits from this incredible system. And so I think we should shift the conversation away from what's the AGI moment to a recognition that, this thing is not going to stop. It's going to go way beyond what any of us would call AGI. And we have to build a society to get the tremendous benefits of this and figure out how to make it safe.
Now to that, there's some people believe that you're not to be trusted in this space. I would love to know who you are. What is your narrative about yourself? What are your core values, Sam, that can give us, the world, confidence that someone with so much power here is entitled to it?
Look, I think like anyone else, I'm a nuanced character that doesn't reduce well to one dimension here. So, probably some of the good things are true and probably some of the criticism is true. In terms of OpenAI, our goal is to make AGI and distribute it, make it safe for the broad benefit of humanity. I think by all accounts, we have done a lot in that direction. Clearly, our tactics have shifted over time. I think we didn't really know what we were going to be when we grew up. We didn't think we would have to build a company around this. We learned a lot about how it goes and the realities of what these systems were going to take from capital. But I think we've been, in terms of putting incredibly capable AI with a high degree of safety in the hands of a lot of people and giving them tools to sort of do whatever amazing things they're going to do, I think it'd be hard to give us a bad grade on that. I do think it's fair that we should be open sourcing more. I think it was reasonable for all of the reasons that you asked earlier, as we weren't sure about the impact these systems were going to have and how to make them safe, that we acted with precaution. I think a lot of your questions earlier would suggest at least some sympathy to the fact that we've operated that way. But now I think we have a better understanding as a world, and it is time for us to put very capable open systems out into the world. If you invite me back next year, you will probably yell at me for somebody who has misused these open source systems and say, why did you do that? That was bad. You should have not gone back to your open roots. But, we're not going to get, there's trade-offs in everything we do. And we are one player in this, one voice in this AI revolution, trying to do the best we can and kind of steward this technology into the world in a responsible way. We've definitely made mistakes. We'll definitely make more in the future. On the whole, I think we have, over the last almost decade, it's been a long time now, we have mostly done the thing we've set out to do. We have a long way to go in front of us. Our tactics will shift more in the future, but adherence to this sort of mission and what we're trying to do, I think very strong.
You tell me, if you don't feel that, what? So few people in the world have the kind of capability and potential you have. We don't know what it feels like. What does it feel like?
Shockingly the same as before. I think you can get used to anything step by step. I think if I were transported from 10 years ago to right now all at once, it would feel very disorienting. But anything does become sort of the new normal. So it doesn't feel any different. And it's strange to be sitting here talking about this, but monotony of day-to-day life, which I mean in the best possible way, feels exactly the same.
You're the same person.
I mean, I'm sure I'm not in all sorts of ways, but I don't feel any different.
This was a beautiful thing you posted. Your son, I mean, that last thing you said there, I've never felt love like this. I think any parent in the room so knows that feeling, that wild biological feeling that humans have and AIs never will, of you're holding your kid. And I'm wondering whether that's changed how you think about things. Like if, say here's a red box, here's a black box with a red button on it. You can press that button and you give your son likely the most unbelievable life, but also you inject a 10% chance that he gets destroyed. Do you press that button?
In the literal case, no. If the question is, do I feel like I'm doing that with my work? The answer is, I also don't feel like that. Look, having a kid changed a lot of things. And by far, the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me. Like everything everybody says is true. The thing my co-founder Ilya said once is, I don't know, this is a paraphrase, something like, I don't know what the meaning of life is, but for sure it has something to do with babies. And it's like unbelievably accurate. It changed how much I'm willing to like spend time on certain things, and like the kind of cost of not being with my kid is just like crazily high. And but I really cared about like not destroying the world before. I really care about it now. I didn't need a kid for that part. I mean, I definitely think more about like what the future will be like for him in particular, but I feel like a responsibility to do the best thing I can for the future for everybody. People are really kind of caring about this now. We did make a change recently to how we think about one part of what's traditionally been understood as safety, which is with our new image model, we've given users much more freedom on what we would traditionally think about as speech harms. If you try to get offended by the model, will the model let you be offended? And in the past, we've had much tighter guardrails on this. But I think part of model alignment is following what the user of a model wants it to do within the very broad bounds of what society decides. So if you ask the model to depict a bunch of violence or something like that, or to sort of reinforce some stereotype, there's a question of whether or not it should do that. And we're taking a much more permissive stance. Now, there's a place where that starts to interact with real world harms that we have to figure out how to draw the line for. But I think there will be cases where a company says, okay, we've heard the feedback from society. People really don't want models to censor them in ways that they don't think make sense. That's a fair safety negotiation.
Make a different agreement. If there was a group of people, say here or out there in the world, who were willing to host a summit of the best ethicists, technologists, but not too many people, small, and you and your peers, to try to crack what agreed safety lines could be across the world, would you be willing to attend? Would you urge your colleagues to come? Of course,
but I'm much more interested in what our hundreds of millions of users want as a whole. I think like a lot of the room has historically been decided in small elite summits. One of the cool new things about AI is our AI can talk to everybody on Earth, and we can like learn the collective value preference of what everybody wants, rather than have a bunch of people who are like blessed by society to sit in the room and make these decisions. I think that's very cool. And I think you will see us do more in that direction. And when we've gotten things wrong, because the elites in the room had a different opinion about what people wanted for the guardrails on image gen than what people actually wanted, and we couldn't point to real world harm, so we made that change. I'm proud of that.
I mean, there is a long track record of unintended consequences coming out of the actions of hundreds of millions of people, and there are
also 100 people in a room making a decision.
And the hundreds of millions of people don't have control over, they don't necessarily see what the next step could lead to.
I am hopeful that is totally accurate and totally right. I am hopeful that AI can help us be wiser, make better decisions, can talk to us. And if we say, hey, I want thing X, rather than like the crowd spin that up, AI can say, hey, totally understand that's what you want. If that's what you want at the end of this conversation, you're in control, you pick, but have you considered it from this person's perspective or the impact it'll have on this people? Like, I think AI can help us be wiser and make better collective governance decisions than we could before.
It's incredible what you've built. It really is. It's unbelievable. I think over the next few years, you're going to have some of the biggest opportunities, the biggest moral challenges, the biggest decisions to make of perhaps any human in history, pretty much. You should know that everyone here will be cheering you on to do the right thing.
We will do our best. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to TED. Thank you. Sam.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Thanks.